Hey, listen, this is a story about a man who was born with a fire in his belly. A man who lived his life striving for something bigger, something that would make him more than just another face in the crowd. A man who put his heart and soul into his work and yet was never truly understood. This is the tale of Vincent van Gogh. Now, let's make something clear before we dive into this fascinating tale. His name is pronounced Van Gogh if you're from England, or Van Gogh if you're from the USA. I'm going to stick with Van Gogh. Now, Vincent wasn't born into a life of luxury. His old man was a preacher in a small town in the Netherlands. You could say his father had big dreams for him, but not the kind of dreams Vincent was chasing. He wanted Vincent to follow in his footsteps, take over the church, become a man of faith. But Vincent, he didn't want to preach to the choir. He wanted to paint. He wanted to make his mark with a brush, not a Bible. But his father wasn't hearing any of that. He tried pushing Vincent into all sorts of jobs. He worked as a teacher, a preacher's assistant, and then he gets a job in an art gallery. So you might think, okay, he's in an art gallery. He must have been happy, right? Wrong. You see, Vincent didn't just want to sell art. He wanted to make it, to create it. Vincent got to see all those beautiful works up close. Every painting was like a spark to his soul, pushing him closer to the dream of becoming an artist. But like that 45-year-old Italian boy still living with his mama, Vincent wanted more than just that mundane life. He felt stuck, never able to be his true self. So he decided to break free and spread his wings. But unlike that 45-year-old Italian guy, he wasn't just moving to the garage. He moved to Paris to study art. But this wasn't a smooth ride. He spent years trying to find himself, living a bohemian lifestyle, hanging out with the art scene, and even getting some support from his brother Theo. His brother worked as an art dealer. They wrote each other 700 letters. You heard me, 700 letters. That's how we know so much about Vincent's life. His letters were his lifeline. You could say those letters were the only ones that really understood him. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. In 1880, at the age of 27, Vincent decided to take that leap of faith and become a painter. And no, not like your Uncle Giovanni, who paints houses and cars and anything else that stands still long enough. We're talking real painting, canvases, art. Though let's be honest, if Uncle Giovanni had a shot at the Sistine Chapel, he'd probably slap on 2 coats and call it a day. So he dove in head first, not looking back. I dream my paintings and I paint my dreams. In 1888, Vincent left Paris for Arles, France. He wanted a fresh start, a quiet place to paint. He thought, I'll make a little artist colony, invite some like-minded people to join me. You know, a place for artists to live and work together. Kind of like your nonno with his scuba nights at the local Italian club. But instead of arguing over what card to throw down, they were arguing over brushstrokes and colour palettes. So he sent for his buddy Paul Gauguin to come and live with him. But here's where the fun starts. They weren't exactly a match made in heaven. Gauguin was all about big ideas. But Vincent, he was wild, passionate, and emotionally driven. The two didn't get along so well. And after a few months of clashing, things took a turn for the worst. One night after an argument, Vincent had what you could call a really bad day, and in a fit of madness, he cut off part of his own ear. I am not a man of reason, I am a man of passion. He then wrapped his ear up in paper and gave it to, let's just say, a woman of the night named Rachel. It seems like the thing to do, right? Wrong. Because after that, it was off to the asylum. Vincent decides to put that moment on canvas. You know the iconic portrait, the one with the bandage wrapped around his head, with the ear missing? That self-portrait is like something out of a Scorsese film. I mean, talk about intensity. You can see the pain in his eyes, the madness swirling beneath the surface. And yet, despite the suffering, there's a kind of quiet defiance in the gaze. What would life be if we had no courage to attempt anything? Then there's the other self-portrait before all that happened. One where he's fresh-faced, with a piercing stare, his eyes filled with determination, with no bandage to hide behind. He painted himself as he wanted to be seen, raw and unfiltered, showing the world who he was, with no pretense. That's the Vincent who was filled with ambition, the one who wanted to be taken seriously. And with every brushstroke, he was making sure the world knew it. Now, life in the asylum wasn't exactly spa-like. They weren't exactly handing out cappuccinos and offering relaxing massages. Vincent was treated poorly. He was isolated, restrained at times, and given little to no emotional support. But still, he painted. Vincent didn't stop. He created masterpieces like irises, wheat fields with crows, and starry nights. Let's talk about the bedroom, a simple little room he lived in, painted with a bright, almost playful palette. A place that should have been his sanctuary. The empty space, the bare walls, it spoke volumes about his isolation, his yearning for a quiet, peaceful life. I wanted to express a serene atmosphere, a sense of peace and security. Then there's the chair. Vincent painted 2 chairs, one of his own and one of Gauguin's. His own chair was simple, humble, a reflection of a life he led. Grounded and rough, the pipe and tobacco were left on the chair, symbols of Vincent's solitary existence. But this wasn't just a painting of a chair. This was Vincent speaking about himself, the man who lived in the chair, who struggled in silence. And then there's Almond Blossom, another classic. This was a gift for his nephew, and you can feel the love in the brushstrokes. Vincent poured himself into this piece. I feel that there is nothing more truly artistic than to love people. Vincent was deeply inspired by the Japanese woodblock prints, and you can see that influence in the composition and colours. The bold graphic style of the petals, the flatness of the forms. It was like he was combining Western painting with Eastern aesthetics, bringing 2 worlds together to create something truly unique. And then there's sunflowers. They were him pushing himself towards something bigger, something beautiful. The vibrant yellows weren't just for show. They were his hopes. They were his dreams. I long so much to be a painter. But let's not forget Starry Nights. Vincent painted this while in the asylum. But this painting isn't just a beautiful night sky. The stars, they're alive in this one. It's like they're pulsing with energy, swirling around like Vincent's own emotions. Cypress trees reaching up towards the stars. That's a man who felt so small, but still wanted to touch something greater, something beyond his pain. But here's the thing about Vincent. He didn't just paint what he saw, he painted what he felt. You could look at Wheat Field with Crows and think, it's just a scene of a field, but it's more than that. It's a reflection of Vincent's struggles. It's his torment, his inner battle. The sadness will last forever. And that painting captures that feeling perfectly. The crows dark and sinister flying across the golden field. There is demons circling him, but never quite catching him. In the end though, the pressure became too much. In July 1890, Vincent shot himself in the chest, then staggered back to his room. He received medical attention, but the wounds were too severe, and the doctor could do little to save him. 2 days later, he passed away in his brother Theo's arms. His last words were, "Tristes durera toujours." The sadness will last forever. But Vincent's legacy didn't die with him. His paintings become some of the most celebrated works in art history. So when you look at those swirling skies in starry nights, or the vibrant yellows in sunflowers, remember this. Vincent didn't just paint, he lived, he loved, he gave everything he had. Even when the world didn't understand him, I am seeking, I am striving, I am in it with all my heart. And that's the legacy he left behind. But after struggling to sell even a handful of paintings in his lifetime, to have his works now sell for millions, even Van Gogh would say, "Oh, my guts."